In today's show, we're going to interview Cody. And for those of you who listen to the show, I've talked about Cody in the past, and this has generated enough interest that for the second interview of the show, we decided to bring you on. So the primary goal of today's episode is to provide a bit of background about the one and only Cody Matthew Grey, and to provide a bit of structure. I guess we will break it down into 4 segments with just some personal background questions, some small farming, homesteading, and audience related questions, and then just some random and off the wall questions, and then we'll just have a few questions to close it out. But before I get into anything else, any questions of my own or questions from the audience, how about you tell us a little bit in your own words from your own mouth, who is Cody Grey? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm not really sure how to answer that, but I guess when people get asked that question, they usually talk about stuff that they do, I guess, and that's who you are. Who I am is what I do, right?
Yeah, right.
Or is it how I feel? I don't know.
That's what people do.
That's what people do. So I guess I am what I do. That's what I am. So
But
I'm like a grower, a small like a market gardener, a market grower. I don't know about farmer, but yeah, market grower. So I grow fruits, vegetables, plants, roots, leaves for market, for direct consumer sales mostly through farmers markets, and do some online sales as well. And as far as other things that I do, I'm a big time hunter. I just try to provide resources that I need on the daily. I try to gather those resources myself or try to stay close to them. So most of that is food. So it comes through growing food, gathering some wild foods, and then growing a lot of domesticated plants, basically. So yeah, I'm a human who wants to be close to my resources. That's kind of who I am.
That's a much better answer than what a lot of people provide with an answer as far as who they are. I'm a software engineer. I'm a garbage man. I'm a janitor. I'm a, because you said that, but then without a doubt, like, and this is that was actually a pretty cool way to answer a question, because immediately it provides people with an understanding of why you do what you do.
Correct.
So there's
True.
that.
True.
You grew up and went to high school around here, but you didn't spend all of your life around here, right?
No. No.
But when you were in, like, going back to the high school days,
Okay.
did you have any, I don't know if you did this like we did in school, did you take those, assessment tests from guidance counselors that said this is what you're gonna, this was what you would be a good fit for? Or did you have any dreams in high school about what you wanted to be when you grew up?
I don't remember taking any tests like that. I don't ever really remember talking to a guidance counselor at all in school. And then as far as having things that I wanted to do when I was in school, or what I thought I wanted to do, no, I had no fucking clue. No idea.
So at what point, at some point though, you made the decision to get into market farming and, foraging and, providing as many resources for yourself as possible.
Mm-hmm.
When did that take place? Because I can't imagine, you were in high school out, growing crops for market and foraging mushrooms and ramps and stuff?
No. No, I mean, I did hunt. I did do deer hunting. I mean, I've been deer hunting since I was a kid because of my dad. But as far as all the market gardening and that business, no, I didn't start that until after I traveled. I traveled around the country for a couple years, 2 different times though, for extended periods, just like in my car by myself, and yeah, for like a couple years total. And I don't know how 30 something states, like lived in them, hung out in them for various periods of time, and hung out on some farms out west and helped on some farms. Not really technically woofing, but kind of like woofing. There was really no agreements or anything. I was just like hanging out, and yeah, so I spent a decent amount of time in California, Southern California, working on some farms, helping on some farms. Spent a little bit of time in Mexico, working on some farms. So yeah, I guess that kind of influenced it. So when I came back to Ohio after all the travel, I started working on a local farmer's place actually.
And that's a perfect question. When did you return to Ohio? Like approximately what year?
Oh yeah, I don't know. Honest, I'm trying to.
Well,
I'll try to think of it.
We talked about this the other day, though. Roughly, and it was because we were talking about being in Southern California roughly around the same time.
Okay, yeah.
And by the time I moved back here, like you were
already here.
You were here for I think a season or two. Yeah. So like let's just say like 2011, 2012 or whatever.
Yeah, probably somewhere around there. Yeah.
And the reason I kind of asked that is, so you traveled out west and were bouncing. You said a couple different occasions. What was the driver to do that in the first place? And did you set out somewhere, or did you just hit the road?
Oh yeah, no, I mapped it all out. Like, I mean, I didn't really stick to the trip, but this was before smartphones, like, or at least I didn't have a smartphone. I got my mom actually bought me a cell phone for when I left to travel because she was terrified. But I didn't have a phone before then, and then I got like a little, I don't even know if it was a flip phone, honestly. It was some kind of little phone, whatever. It didn't really work. But no, I like had a map of the United States, like a road map. And I had a laptop with me, but I'd only used it at libraries and stuff, basically. So I mapped out through all the states that I wanted to go to, all these different campgrounds and places where you could stay for free, supposedly. And yeah, so I kind of had it mapped out, but it didn't, of course it didn't go as planned, but it was a good deal of it was mapped out. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. But part of things not going to plan it is half the adventure a lot of times.
Yeah. And I think you asked about why maybe to do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't really know other than, yeah, I don't know. I guess there wasn't a whole lot of what I was looking for around here, or I thought there wasn't what I was looking for around here. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I had some idea about, like, the world was so different elsewhere, or things were very different, not in Northeast Ohio. But yeah, it kind of realized after the years traveling around and all that that it was really just me, that it didn't really matter where I went because I'm still myself. So that was kind of one of the major takeaways. Because so I guess setting out on this trip or whatever you want to call it was not really to, quote unquote find myself or whatever. Not that I did find myself, but I realized that I am myself no matter where I go, and that mostly it's about your state of mind, my state of mind, rather than where you are on the geographically, I guess.
Well said. When you had you mentioned that were staying in campgrounds and you worked on some farms, not, I mean, sort of like a wolfing program, but not through that program.
Not through, yeah.
Um, was working on some farms part of your plan prior to leaving, or did that kind of come into the into the whole situation like while you were on the road?
Just came into it, yeah. It came. I
Like
will.
how?
I will say that I was a pretty serious vegan at the time, so I did have some sort of interest in how food
Okay.
was grown, and I did come up. My parents had a garden, but they really didn't. They didn't have much of an idea what was going on with it. But we did grow stuff. I mean, so I had an interest in food for sure, and I worked in some kitchens, so I was pretty serious into cooking food and being a vegan. You know, I did have an interest in, yeah, fruit and vegetable production.
And then, okay, that makes sense. Um, so in the travels, in finding your way to Southern California and throughout Mexico and working on some farms in both places, you had also mentioned in the past that you spent some time at Slab City.
Yep. Yeah, two
Like,
different times lived in Slab City for
what's
extended periods.
what uh, what can you tell us? Well, first of all, um, maybe there are some people that are going to hear this that are completely unfamiliar with Slab City. So maybe
Right.
tell us a little bit about what Slab City is and
Yeah.
like where it is.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm no historian on Slab City or whatever, but
Sure.
from what I from my from my shallow understanding of Slab City, it was an old military base, Navy, I believe, and they like discontinued it. They moved the base on the other side of this mountain range in the Chocolate Mountains, which is a pretty cool mountain range, and it's in Nyland. Nyland, I think Nyland's the county in California, southeastern California. It's in the desert. It's very desert. It's very hot in the summer and pretty cold in the winter. But
Is
yeah, so
is it at
it's kind of the middle
elevation?
of nowhere. Say
Is
again.
it at elevation?
Yeah, it's not at a high. Yeah, I think it's like at elevate. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Like,
okay.
yeah, but then there's the mountain range. You can see the mountain range in when you're in Slab City. You can see the Chocolate Mountains. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like sea level or some
Okay,
shit.
okay.
It's flat out there.
When you said it got cold in the winter, it just made me wonder if it was up up in the mountains or
No, it just gets cold in the desert.
okay.
Basically. So yeah, it's this old military base, and I mean, I was out there quite a few years ago, so I don't know how many people inhabited it at this point. But when I was there, it was kind of a situation where there'd be like 100 to 150 full time residents of Slab City, and then up to like 500 people in the winter when the temperature was cooler. So basically, just the diehard people lived there all year because the summer was so hot and oppressive heat, and just there's not a lot of water and that kind of thing. But it's basically a bunch of hippies, vagabonds, like you know, lots of different types of people. But you just kind of like living for free in the desert. There's like not much authority out there. The cops don't really go out there very much. It's in the middle of nowhere, so you can kind of just do what you want. You can literally pull up with your bicycle or your motorhome or your car or whatever, and you could just pick a spot and you could stay there for indefinite amounts of time. No one's gonna tell you have to leave, you know, if you're pretty chill and respectful or whatever. And I think it's a pretty unique place because I don't think there's any place like that in the United States besides Slab City, as far as I know.
No, but it's because it's how, like, what would it be considered, like unincorporated or it, I
I have no idea.
I guess
No idea.
I guess that's for uh
The internet's the answer.
yeah, I guess
Look it up.
I guess that will be something I will include in the show notes because now I'm interested and
It's a cool place.
I looked it up and I've done a couple quick cursory scrolls, and after we talked especially,
Mm.
I saw a couple photos of what was the
Yeah, so that's Salvation Mountain.
Yeah.
Well, Leonard, he's dead now, but yeah, I think he was like one of the first people there, and he built this crazy ass mountain of trash and like paper mache and anything you can think of, and he just like car doors, regular doors, pieces of houses. He just like stuck it in.
And it's painted, and
It's painted. It's like
yeah,
but it's like a
Salvation
devotion to God or something. No, it's very
Salvation
biblical.
Mountain. It's this, but
It's cool, man.
it's wild. It's
Very
like, I
wild.
mean,
In the middle of the desert.
I yeah. Real quick side note: there were a few people like in Asheville that I knew that were kind of in the Burning Man scene
Yeah.
that made a similar type of that like folk arts kind of like,
Yeah.
I don't know how you describe it, but people that are listening or I guess in this case now watching should check out Salvation Mountain, because it's like, would you say that maybe that sort of epitomizes the whole like sort of like scene or idea of Slab City, just the kind of look of the place, like you see that and you're like, yeah, like that's Slab City, or
I don't
no?
know, because there's a lot of different shit going on in Slab City. But if you go a little bit further past Salvation Mountain, there's a stage. I can't remember what it's called. There's like a stage out there with a bunch of solar panels, and it's like people have a jam. I think it's like that. It's like an open mic type of situation. I think like every Friday or Thursday. I can't remember the
Oh, really?
day. Yeah, yeah, and a bunch of people get up there and jam. It's mostly like people playing like old CCR covers and shit. It's pretty funny, pretty bad ones too. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of different shit going on. I mean, there's like a library there. There's restaurants there. Like, and this is all kind of like DIY. It's like a lot of rainbow gathering people hang out there. You know what I'm saying? There's a skate park there, or there used to be. I don't know if it's still there, but there's a skate park.
But it's I mean,
Hot
they've
springs.
turned this place into a community,
It's a little community,
and
yeah,
and people are there year round. Definitely less so in the summertime when it's hot. But
way
in the
less.
wintertime,
It's like 120
it's
degrees.
like reverse snowbirds.
Exactly, 120 degrees in the summer. It's insanely hot.
Interesting.
It's dry, but it's hot. It's like super hot. But quick thing is, people might know Salvation Mountain. People probably would know Salvation Mountain mostly. The biggest reference to Salvation Mountain, I think, is probably that movie Into the Wild, the Christopher McCandless, that dude who died in Alaska, the young kid. I don't know if you've seen that.
I've seen the
Emil
movie,
Hirsch.
I remember that in it.
Emil Hirsch played the character Christopher McCandless. I can't remember what his name. He had like a pseudonym. I can't remember his pseudonym. It was something cool. But yeah, that was a pretty big part of that film. Because he ended up staying there for a while, and he met a bunch of people there and like hung out with them for long periods of time or whatever. But yeah, they actually showed the stage and stuff and like the open mic, and he supposedly did the open mic or whatever with some chick. I don't know how true the movie is, but I like the movie. But anyway, so yeah, Into the Wild has pretty big scenes at Salvation Mountain and just Slab City in general.
And the stage.
It's a good movie.
Stage.
Yeah. Right.
Interesting. We could.
Alexander Supertramp was his pseudonym. Alexander Supertramp, which is a pretty cool name. Mm-hmm.
If
it's a good book too.
If either of us develop pseudonyms, we're gonna have to work hard to come up with something as cool as Alexander Supertramp.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, if we ever do this again, and we should, maybe I should do my homework on Slab City, and we could just talk about that. Like, how long, kind of to sort of conclude that and move on. You were there 2 different times, or roughly like how long of a period of time each time?
I honestly, I mean, no more than 6 months at a time.
Okay, but so it
Maybe the
wasn't
one
just like
time.
popping in for, like a week or something. Like you were there to.
Yeah, I set up a camp. Like I had inherited like this trailer from this couple who were really cool, and we became friends with. And
That's cool. So you were there just long enough to like cultivate relationships, be a part of the community, and like
oh yeah,
that was
I
that
was
was
helping out
that,
in the
that
kitchen.
was
Like
home for a while.
yeah, they did free meals like every Friday, and I would help cook the free meals on Fridays in the kitchen. And yeah, so I mean, and they had like a movie screen, and they would show movies on Friday nights with the dinner, and it was all free. So yeah, I was there for. I mean, I was there a bunch of different times, but like probably maybe like 4 to 6 months, I'd say something like that. I stayed there was my longest time there.
Interesting.
Yeah, like a whole winter. I stayed a whole winter one time.
Yeah, that provides a wealth of experience, life experience, for sure. I would think.
Yeah,
But
a lot of shit going on.
you were there among all these other places in
Mm.
and around California and Mexico. How real quick, like that's interesting. I didn't know that at all. So where at in Mexico were you, and how did you end up there with regard to other California travels, and then Ohio? Was that like one of the last things you did before coming back here, or what was the kind of the path that ended up getting you
Mm.
back here
Um,
in whenever that was, like
yeah,
2011, 2012?
right. So while I was staying in Southern California in San Diego, and one of my really good friends was in the Navy SEAL program, and a lot of the Navy SEALs would go down to Tijuana to party, and I would go down with them sometimes.
Yeah.
Which Tijuana, Mexico, it's like kind of right there, or whatever. So, and eventually I wanted to go to Mexico. I don't know for some reason. I don't really know. I mean, I like citrus a lot, or I used to eat a lot of citrus, and I figured, hey, whatever. They got some citrus farms down there, so lemons and oranges and whatnot. So, ended up going down there for a while, and then
Working a citrus farm?
through Texas. I went there because I stayed in Texas for a pretty decent amount of time too, and met. I have some. I have one really good friend in Texas, and I was staying kind of in his area, which is kind of outside of Dallas, Denton, Texas.
Oh
Which
yeah.
Denton, Texas, is like a college. It's like a hippie college, art, liberal kind of town, or whatever it used to be. I don't know anymore, but yeah. So just kind of like migrated south from there, and then came back up after Mexico, back into Texas, and then yeah, actually came back to Ohio from Texas. Matter of fact, yeah. Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
And then when when you first came back, 2011, 2012, whenever that was, 10 some years ago, you first started, or not first started, because you had already been on a number of farms,
Mm.
small farms of the different kinds at that point. And you worked, you know, you were working on a couple different ones locally. Was it by that point in time, had you already established, like, in your mind that this is what I want to do, this is kind of the life path that I want to seek?
No, I don't think so. I mean, maybe a little bit, but I don't think I was dead set on it or totally convinced. No.
At what point did you, when did you first do a market, and when you first did a market, were you selling on behalf of somebody that you were, like, at one of the local farms you were working for, or
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, you did.
Yeah, I mean, I would just help them set up. I'd
Okay,
basically just help them set up everything and then go back to the farm while he did the farmer's market.
and just keep working.
Just keep working. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I would do. That was my gig on Saturdays. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
um
And it was the Medina farmer's market on the square.
okay.
Hmm.
And as we go on, and I ask you more questions about this, I'm not going to ask you any specific names of people or
Okay.
institutions or anything. We can just talk about, like, the the pros, the cons, but
Sure, sure.
there's no sense in
Oh yeah, right.
naming names or whatever. But
Sure.
so when did you were working for couple different people, couple different places, small farms, and then at some point you were, I think when we first met 2014 or something, you had some beds in the back at your folks' place.
Yep. Yeah, that's where I started growing initially at my folks' place
And
in Litchfield.
that was kind of your first
hmm
stint of doing your own thing your way on your terms.
Yeah, I started doing that while I was working for a different guy. Uh,
Okay.
He also lived in Litchfield, and then I would go after I'd worked for him or whatever. I would go home and do my little bit of stuff on the bed spaces that I had at my parents' place. It was a very small amount of bed space. It wasn't much. It
When
was not
did
much.
when did you start doing your thing full time and stop working for other people?
Uh, I mean, I think it's like 4 years ago now. I haven't worked for anybody else. Maybe
Okay.
something not nothing serious. Um, yeah, I can't recall if it's been 4 years, 5 years since I've had like a like a straight job or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, right. Because
hmm
I remember that for a while,
hmm
you were working locally with them.
We're not going to name names.
Yeah, yeah. And
hmm
but with the greenhouse, yeah.
Yeah, I was teaching.
Yeah.
I was teaching individuals with disabilities how to grow, I guess, food in a greenhouse setting locally. That's what I was doing.
Just out of curiosity, was that like a year or two or something?
Oh, I did that for 4 years.
Really that long?
It was almost 4 years.
Huh.
It was like 3 years and some change.
Okay, so that's that as I'm trying to just
hmm
mentally think about time frames and stuff and fill in like a gap of time, that's kind of that gap of time.
hmm
I got it. All
Yeah.
right. That clears things up.
Yep.
Okay, so basically, like a lot of people, you did your thing and then you worked a day job for a few
hmm
years
Yep.
and we're trying to build this other thing up on the side at nights and stuff like that.
Pretty much.
And then after working the day job, like the official, day job,
hmm
you were working for a couple different farms here and there, and then building up your stuff even more before going full time.
Right.
Like I'm I'm Cody. I'm taking my stuff to market, and obviously by that time, um, you know, it's safe to say 5 years ago you were like, yeah, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. This is Cody. Like with or
I never talk about myself in the third person,
okay.
but go ahead.
Well, like, yeah, this is who I am. This is how I'm going to make a living.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I'm going to do to earn a buck.
Mm. Yeah. I
And
mean, I
then
guess something like that.
when you were, okay, here, kind of going back a little bit to when you were out west, back in the vegan days.
The dark days.
How long were you a vegan, by the way?
Uh, I think about 4 years. Probably
Wow.
4 years.
All right.
Yeah, I think about 4.
I was a vegetarian for about a year and a half, but
hmm
that's strict.
hmm
You have some pretty how do I you're just you're just diligent about you're just very mindful of what you consume,
Try to be.
period.
Try to be. Yeah.
you know
Not just food,
right,
media,
right.
whatever, entertainment.
and if we can, you know we might even dive into that a little bit, but where I was going with that question of, at what point did you start getting into more foraging and incorporating that into life in conjunction with farming?
They kind of started at the same time, honestly.
Oh yeah,
They kind of started at the same time.
were you working with someone who was going out and were like, oh yeah, or it just
Not really. No, no. I just kind of like started doing it myself because I didn't really know anybody with, yeah, just, I guess I started learning about some stuff that was available out there
okay?
beyond, beyond, meat, animals. We're talking plants and fungus, you know, so foraging mushrooms and foraging just like, simple stuff, blackberries, black raspberries. Yeah, just easily identifiable things.
And then over the course of time, your interest in that like grew,
Hmm.
as did I think. I mean, you said you've always hunted.
Hmm.
You grew up hunting, but
Yep.
would you say that you view hunting differently now through a different lens than maybe you did as a kid?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like one of the most important things in my life. Period. It's
Yeah.
like closest. It's probably like the closest thing to spirituality that I have in my life, I
Yeah.
would say.
And that's why I think when like I've never been out. I mean, we talk about it.
Hmm.
I get my balls busted a lot from a lot of people for being here and not hunting, and I get it.
I've never done that to you.
No, you have never, because you're not those people. Like, and I appreciate that. But that's a big part of the reason why why I'd like to go out with you for a first time and like sit and maybe why some other people do too is because that approach is respected and maybe just a little bit different than than what a lot of people see. But
Mm.
anyways, again, that could maybe be um I should make some notes. That could be another little uh topic in its own right. Um if we were ever to do these little Rob and Cody, which I don't, we can talk about that later. But so you've been doing this, solid farming 4 or 5 years,
Hmm.
taking the market, multiple markets, um,
Hmm.
and hustling, just doing what is needed to make it work as a small farmer. What's your favorite thing about being a small farmer, market gardener, homesteader, whatever you want to call yourself? I guess it depends on who you're talking to, what you refer to yourself as. But what's your favorite thing about living the life you live?
Mm. Favorite thing. I mean, wow, that's a tough question. I would say, I guess, just being able to think about how I'm made up of so much of what I'm putting my effort toward. It's like literally on a cellular level. About from the deer that I eat that I took, killed, to yeah, whatever, man, the potatoes or the onions or whatever else, the soil too. Like I'm always like touching it, and it's like I'm microbially connected to my environments in a lot of ways.
You literally are what you harvest.
Yeah, right. Yep. You are what you eat, or like you are what you eat eats, kind of thing. So yeah, even if it's a plant, like eating the microbes and all that, and then the deer, whatever the deer are eating. So yeah, that's probably my favorite part, is just
That's interesting.
being close, being like so close, literally, that you're made up of it. It's just, we're like the same shit. You
I,
know?
I expected some answer like that, but not framed in that. But it's also not surprising. So with that said, on the flip side, what what are some of the challenges? Some of the hardest things you've faced over the past few years, 5 years, even 10 years going back, when you first started dabbling with the farming world.
Are you? So you're speaking now specifically about being a market gardener, market grower?
Yeah.
The challenges of that.
Yeah. So you got your favorite things, or some of the challenges, or just maybe even some of the things that you absolutely hate, like tasks that you despise.
I don't know. I mean, I don't really hate it, any of it, but honestly, it depends on what time of year you ask me this question. I would say, obviously, because the tasks differ. They get very different depending on the season. But I mean, I guess the least favorite, dude, I don't even know. Like the least favorite. It's really hard to answer. I don't hate any of it, as I just said. I really don't hate any of it. I guess having to make money through it, is not the easiest part. It's not my least. It's not my favorite part. It's not my favorite part is worrying about the financial aspects of the whole thing. Yeah, because I mean, I think if we weren't living in a money-based culture, that I would still kind of be doing the market gardening thing, but maybe just bartering or being like a local grower, as far as like, oh, well, this guy grows vegetables, and like, oh, this guy, is a blacksmith, so like we're trading, you know, whatever vegetables and fruit for, like, this guy makes the tools so I can grow the vegetables and fruit, like that kind of situation. Like, I feel like I would still be doing that. So yeah, one of the more difficult parts, I would say, is worrying so much about the financial aspect, because growing food is already not that easy, but then like trying to make money at it is even harder. I would say,
Yeah,
at least for me, because I'm not
it's
financially inclined, but naturally, at least, I don't. It's something I should work on more. Finances.
I understand. It's interesting that you say that, though, because that was a question I was originally going to ask you. Was, if money wasn't a concern in the world, what would you be doing? And I decided to because I just knew that after talking with you and knowing you for so long.
I wouldn't work as much, though. I wouldn't be working as much.
Yeah, it would be framed differently. We'd all be living differently. But yeah, it's that's just it's funny that you took it there. Of course. So you've been here for a few years, working this land.
Mm-hmm.
Predominantly. I mean, you're doing other things in other places, all kinds of things everywhere. But somebody from the audience Sean asked how, in a simplified manner, his question is, how does one select what crops to grow on a given piece of land? Like, how did you get to the point where you determined what you were going to grow, or what you are actively growing now up there?
I'm still working on it. It's still like a refinery process, but so that's a difficult question. I mean, I feel like it almost would have to be more specific, because it's very specific upon where you're selling what you're growing. And I would say soil type, but that's not really true, because you can always amend it and pretty much grow whatever. So I would say it depends heavily upon your market.
Okay.
Where you're selling. Yeah. And for me, it's, I think a lot of market gardeners say this, market growers say this, is lettuce is like number one. Because people are always like eating salads. They're pretty,
Are there just some things that you want that you'd really love to grow, but it just sucks up there? Just doesn't work?
Oh yeah. Cucumbers. Yeah. Yeah. Cucurbits and that's a tough word, apparently. The whole cucumber, squash family, for me, is not that easy to grow up there. There's a lot of insects that like to eat those plants. So yeah, I really would like to grow a lot of cucumbers, because I actually like to eat a lot of cucumbers myself, and people really like to buy cucumbers. But and melons too, so it's the same family. But melons and cucumbers, I would love to grow more of those things. Not that they're extremely profitable. I don't think cucumbers more so than melons, because melons are, people really don't want to pay money for melons. They don't want to pay what they're worth.
Right.
But again, with the cucumbers, I like to eat those, and same thing with melons. I really like melons a lot, so I would eat them. I would like to eat more melons than I do.
You would like to eat them, but
Yeah.
you have challenges in doing so because the bugs really,
Yes.
maybe not so much like to eat the fruits, but like to
The
eat
plants.
the plants and the stems and the leaves and everything that makes the fruits grow. So yeah, that's no good. Which is also an interesting segue into the next question, which is, um, how do you deal with, those challenges when pests are destroying crops, and how do you stay motivated when you face those stressors, when like pests or just crop failures or anything for that matter,
Mm,
something not working out
right.
the way you planned?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Initially, a lot of cursing, getting very upset. Um, yeah, I try not to internalize it for too long, though. I try to let it go. So honestly, my method, not that this is the best way at all. This is just, I'm not even saying it works for me. I'm just saying this is what I'm leaning into more recently, or this past season, I guess, is kind of just putting the blinders on and literally just not looking at certain areas because I know they're just a mess, or they're a failure, or whatever you want to call it. So either not really paying a lot of attention to it, and or just, I guess, tarping it, tarping the area or the bed in particular, and just kind of
Full
moving
kill.
on. Just moving on, dude.
Yeah.
Just not getting hung up on it. Just moving on. And if I don't have time to just move on that minute or that day or whatever, then, like I said, I'll just try not to pay too much attention or get caught up in that particular crop or that particular failure or whatever it is, because there's so much going on up there that it's easy. There's a lot of options, a lot of other places to look. So literally, it will be me walking past an area and not looking at it on purpose
Right.
a lot of times, and that's
So
okay.
yeah, of course. And along the same lines, what in those times, like if there's a lot of that going on, what makes you feel motivated? What makes you feel inspired and gets you passionate about things?
I don't know. I mean, like the motivation and the inspiration, I think is kind of like bullshit. I don't know. I don't really subscribe too much to like motivation or inspiration because I think it's a fleeting. They're both pretty fleeting. Mine's more just, I would say, I don't know about dedication, but just, yeah, just kind of stay in the path and just, yeah, moving forward, man. It's not, like I said, it's not, I mean, I'd say more days than not, I don't feel motivated to keep pushing through and whatever. But again, I think motivation is, yeah, it's kind of bullshit.
So you're not one to,
I don't rely
like
on it.
the times get tough, put on Eye of the Tiger and listen to Zig Ziglar or something like that.
I mean, I will listen to music a lot and podcasts and shit, but I mean,
I'm going to ask you that
yeah, I mean, no,
later for sure.
no, I don't. Again, I try not to think too much about it. When I'm not feeling motivated or whatever, like I don't pay much attention to it. And then it's the same when I'm like feeling motivated. I guess I don't pay a lot of attention to that either
Sure.
because as I said, it's like I don't think about too much how I'm feeling about these things, how I
I got you.
feel, how I don't get caught up in the feelings
On it,
because they can. Yeah, I think they can dilute life
you get
a
hung
lot of
up. You can
times.
just you get caught up in a loop in a way too, of
Yeah,
sorts.
man. I don't know. Yeah, I think humans are one of the only animals that get so much caught up in how they feel.
Jeez,
So,
that's the truth. And on a completely unrelated note, not emotions or dealing with stress and feeling challenged and motivated and all that stuff. Um,
yeah.
and we've talked about this a little bit. Farming, for sure, it's physically demanding.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people would say, well, you're just, you're like, you're fit. Like, what, why would you work out? And you've mentioned that there's a lot of repetitive motion that you're doing. And
Mm.
so, and that you do some other things to stay fit in addition to the work that you're already doing. So what else do you do to stay physically fit? And
Mm.
and why those things as opposed to
Mm.
other
Mm.
uh, stuff, other
Right.
things.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll start my answer by saying that I think like farming, human agriculture, it's I'm not saying it's unnatural for people, but I'm saying I don't think it's that natural for the human body, the repetitive nature of it, and I think it's very damaging to the human body, even though I spend a lot of time doing it. So yeah, I guess I try to do things that are kind of the reversal of that, and not so mechanized, and not so much stooping and bending and squatting, and yeah, just a lot of looking down. It's a lot of looking down. So yeah, I don't know. I do quite a few things. I mean, I do a lot of like hanging from bars and trees and stuff like that, and pull ups and things like that. I like to lift up and throw around really, like big heavy rocks. Um, there's that, and I would say um, like more free form stuff like swimming. When yeah, I feel like stuff that's just kind of loosens up the joints and whatnot. I stretch every single day too, without exception. Definitely every day stretcher usually in the mornings. Spend like 30 minutes to 40 minutes every day stretching, or foam rolling, or incorporating stretching and foam rolling actually together. Um, and then I would say making sure I get good sleep is part of like the staying fit, because I think that's pretty underrated as far as staying fit and healthy, is trying to get really good sleep and sleeping on like hard surfaces too. I don't sleep on a bed, so sleeping on like a wood floor, I think is good for like aligning the body. And even though I'm sitting on the couch right now, I generally don't really sit on couches, and I don't like chairs and couches, and so I don't really spend a lot of time sitting on things. I like to sit on the ground,
Yeah.
or like lay on the ground or whatever. I don't. Yeah, I just think human posture is pretty shitty,
It,
and yeah, I spend a lot of time trying to, I guess, not make my posture so shitty.
yeah, I agreed. I mean, you've kind of inspired me to up my stretching game a lot, uh, as well. And, um, oh, I lost my train of thought. Um, It's something we were talking about this. You were talking about the throwing rock and
Hmm.
movement and the unnatural aspects of agriculture and your
Hmm.
non-mechanized activity. And I guess that thought is gone.
It's okay. I'll just say that
Yeah,
I
please
think I
continue.
think
Maybe there's something will come back to me.
I think humans, myself included, we need to do more hard shit, like challenging
More
physically,
physical stress.
more challenging physically, because I do think that sitting in chairs, looking at screens and stuff, it is physically challenging and taxing on the human body, but not in the beneficial way so much as like going outside with your bare feet on the ground and lifting up heavy ass shit and throwing it around, or dragging something that's really heavy around, or putting a backpack on and with a bunch of weight in it and a bow and arrow and walk 3 miles on a hunting ground. That's these things are just, I think, essential, and often neglected and not pursued. And yeah, I think people are or no, I shouldn't say that. I think yeah, I think people need to do harder things
Yeah,
on a daily basis. I think is the other important part.
and maybe be a
Use it
little,
or lose it.
and also maybe be a little bit more creative than simply
Yeah.
doing something than going to 24-hour fitness and getting on a machine. And
Well,
not that that's a bad
nah,
thing, it's a great
fucking
start, but
do it too. You can
yeah,
do that
yeah,
too. I mean, I have like free weights that I use, and I do push-ups and stuff. I mean, like, yeah, I think
just whatever it is that we do
yeah,
that.
but
more.
maybe change the viewpoint or perspective on it as far as, you have to block out this hour, you have to do like this many reps or whatever. I mean, you could do 10 minutes of something, 3 times a day or whatever. It doesn't have to be like in one block. You know what I mean? I just think that physical fitness, or I don't really know what to call it, but physical wellness maybe. It doesn't have to be so black and white. It can really it can be, you can get really creative with it, and not even just the movements itself, but, you know, the time frames of the movements, or, whatever. Yeah, it's almost like infinite possibilities. And I think, it gets kind of stagnant. Yeah. You go and you bench press and you squat and you
Well,
deadlift. And
exactly. I mean, one prime example of kind of like what you're talking about is the we were just talking about movement and stuff in the barn, and I was moving some things around, and I was telling you I was doing lunges with a pallet over my head,
right.
just not that I needed to, but because I could, and it, so there's some value in just doing things and thinking creatively with movement.
Yeah. You don't even have to have weights. Like you said, it could be a
Yeah.
pallet. It can be whatever, whatever it is, like whatever you do in your daily life, whether you're a dishwasher or a farmer or whatever you are, man, like there's definitely opportunities, you know, all the time probably, where you can use your environment to your advantage, and get something out of it good, that's physical and challenging for you, and beneficial, like I said, in a physical way.
Yeah, and the physical, the physical nature of farming, the physical nature of some of the activity that you engage in. In addition to that, that's led to a bit of a nickname for you by Dave. You're the Jack Tippy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Do you have any other nicknames other than?
I think that's a horrible nickname.
Come on.
I think that's such a bad nickname for me.
No other nicknames other
I'm not.
than the one Dave has graced you with.
I wish I was jacked, but I'm not. I'm actually not jacked. I'm trying to get there. It's probably never gonna happen, but I'm working on it. I'm also not a hippie, so
that's funny.
I'm definitely not a hippie. I guess I have hippie aspects to me, but
it's funny because
I'm not a hippie.
You vehemently oppose that term, but there's just so many people that look at you and they're like, "Oh, they're a hippie," and it's funny. But one other yeah.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I guess Dave says that every once in a while, but it's definitely not something he uses. By the way, Dave is a good friend of mine who also works on the farm, and so yeah, he doesn't really use that name that often. I guess you must have heard it one time. We usually say really derogatory.
That's all I heard. I think I heard it once, and I couldn't let it go.
That's not even
stuck. It's just
that's not even really the name. We usually say really horrible derogatory things to each other.
I wish it was more of a thing, because I just think it's awesome because of the fact that you're just like, I'm not a hippie, and the fact that it's a name that's stuck. It's just like, yeah, that's the best. Anyways, so and I was poking around, I had a lot of things that I wanted to ask you. I put feelers out there, to the podcast group, to family, what do they want to ask you? And one of the things that people wanted, and this was a question that sort of generated some, I don't want to say controversy, but generated some dialogue, because someone was interested in how you maintain a work-life balance. And then someone else countered with, what? Work-life balance? That's something that people in corporate America struggle with. And I think a lot of people associate with white collar jobs.
Okay.
I don't see it that way at all. And that's not, I think in some conversations that we've had, we can agree that we both don't see it that way. So how do you manage that? This whole work-life balance?
I mean,
Or how do you try your the lack of management of it to not negatively affect you?
I mean, yeah, I don't really know how to answer, but I mean, I guess I'll say during the season. I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, obviously stumbling around because I don't have a good answer here. I was thinking about it the other day. I guess about. I'm pretty sure I worked 7.5 months, basically up until this week. This week was the first week I didn't have a farmer's market. I don't know how long it's been. It's been a long time, but I'd say probably 7.5 solid months where I think I had maybe like 1 or 2 days where I took maybe like a portion of the day where I didn't really work. But every other day, I mean, it's definitely like a solid 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 hours, depending on the day of the week. Probably 7.5 months of that this season. So there was not a work-life balance, I would say that. But now I am starting to do more life things. Not that I want to keep work and life separate. I mean, I don't know. I think asking my girlfriend would probably be better. She'd be a good person to ask because she worries.
When
She worries about it because you know, she sees me during the height of the season, and I'm sure other people do too.
well,
It's messy. It gets messy. It's not a healthy thing, I don't think, overall. Mentally or physically to work 10, 12, 14, 16-hour days for 7.5-ish months and really only having maybe one solid day off in that whole span of time where I literally didn't do anything on the farm for a whole day. But I mean, I will say that once I'm done working on the farm for the day or whatever, and I go hang out with my family, have dinner or whatever we do, that I pretty much drop the farm stuff. I don't really talk about it. I don't really want to talk about it.
yeah.
I kind of let my family know that I don't want to talk about it anymore because I don't really want to think about it when I'm not there, and I don't want to think about it when I'm not there. So I kind of try to keep it separate, honestly, from my family life and my farm life. I try to keep somewhat separate. Um,
So yeah, just
yeah,
compartmentalizing some of that a little bit, and you mentioned that now that things are easing up a little bit, isn't it kind of nice to not have a market?
yeah, it's pretty
I,
nice. I
I'm
didn't have a
I'm I'm
market this
I'm now
morning.
finally experiencing a taste of what you've been living for years, and understanding that this is likely going to be uh, comparable. And that's just that. That's something that I'm going to ask you a little bit about in a minute here. But you mentioned that it's nice that you've got a little bit more time so that you can do your personal stuff.
Take a nap.
Yeah, take a nap,
Well, I
spend
do.
time with family.
I take a nap with my youngest daughter. It's like one of my favorite things.
What else? What are other favorite things that you have outside of like taking a nap with your daughter, which kind of sounds like one of the best things in the world?
Yeah, it's
Quite.
pretty
How
nice.
old is she, by the way, for those that don't know?
She's like 14 months old.
Yeah, and then
14
your
months.
other daughter is
She's like 7.5 years old.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What other hobbies do you have besides being a family man and being a dad and taking naps with a 14-month-old?
That's pretty. No, I'm just. I mean, hunting's number one, 100%. It's 100% number one. It's pretty much my favorite thing to do in life in general. Bow hunting in particular. I will say bow hunting. It's not just hunting, but bow hunting. Okay. So it's bow hunting white-tailed deer is probably my favorite thing, and then the whole process of yeah, everything from going out into the woods. I mean, it's really before that practicing shooting the bow, like everything to do with hunting, man. Just getting more in tune with my own senses, and having way more quiet time where I'm actually not managing things and managing tasks and schedules and things like that.
So
So
less the
yeah,
actual act of hunting day of, but everything else
everything,
that goes
all the
into,
preparation,
yeah.
you know, scouting, looking at public lands, just visit. I just like, you know, being outside on public ground in Ohio and just taking it all in, man. That's like, it's, yeah, like I said, it's the closest thing to spirituality I have, and it's probably my most healing practice that I would do. But yeah, so the hunting probably number one. Um, Definitely that. Music somewhat. I mean, I don't really play a lot of music anymore. But yeah, I used to be really into music, playing music, creating music, writing music, recording music, playing a lot of different instruments. Like I said, it's not really so much anymore. But yeah, cooking too. I really like cooking a lot.
I like being
Really like
around you when you
cooking.
cook.
Yeah, cooking's fun. Cooking's fun. Been getting into making sourdough bread again recently, which is I really love making sourdough bread a lot.
Are you
Um,
interested in gluten-free sourdough?
no,
Okay.
no,
I
it's
know
okay.
someone who's seemingly mastered this, and
Yeah.
if you had any interest in that, I could connect you. But if you don't, then whatever.
No, I feel bad for gluten, honestly, because it's so heavily hated now.
Yeah, right.
Everyone hates it. So it's like, dude, can you imagine being gluten in this day and age? Just being gluten,
That should be, I'm gonna write that down as like another thing that we could talk about. Is just the whole like
people hate it.
gluten discussion, because that's an interesting discussion to have.
I'm not saying it's a health food, but I'm saying like, dude,
Oh,
is it really the worst thing in the world? Like,
right,
I don't know, man. Everyone, it's like a campaign against gluten
right.
now,
And
which is like, dude,
I I get it, but I think there's a lot more there than just simply like
way
gluten
more.
being the scapegoat of
Yeah,
all the things,
there's a lot of
because it
things.
sure seems to be that way with a lot of things.
Yeah, people just want to take like a far distance look at it and judge it, you
Right.
know, or like say think they have it figured out rather than get into like the nitty gritty details of maybe it's not gluten, maybe it's glyphosate, maybe it's, you know, not being a sourdough, you know, whatever, you know, there's so much not sprouted, you know, whatever it is, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, and then physical fitness is also like
Oh,
I'm really passionate about that. Really, it's like a daily practice, you know. So again, with the stretching and the weights and push-ups and whatever it ends up being, you know, just any stuff like that I really enjoy a lot. And music too, but not just I'm speaking now about listening to the music because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I like listening to music a lot, music and podcasts a lot, both of those things. I spend a lot of time by myself with the farming, so I will listen to music and
I,
podcasts while doing that.
I think a lot of people listening to this will identify with that because they're in a similar position, maybe not farming, but
Hmm.
much like I was and am, where podcasts were not so much music, more so now.
Hmm.
Um, like way more so now than podcasts. But
Hmm.
it's an integral part of life, and it is for you. It is for a lot of people, and I think that that's gonna resonate with a lot of people. I really wanted to ask because I wasn't sure if there was some lingering thing out there in the mysterious world of Cody that I didn't know about. Like, maybe you were into um, crocheting or something. No.
No,
All
I'm
right.
not. I've never done that.
Didn't I mean I wasn't really, I didn't know what to expect, but hey, who knows what comes up and things. Like, for example, I didn't know you'd been to Mexico. So,
Mm, hmm.
but to kind of wrap up the whole market farming industry part of the discussion, if um if someone who was dead set on, we can we both know of someone, in particular, who seems dead set on being a market farmer.
Yep, we know what we're
Um,
talking about.
yeah, like what advice, and you've probably given it to him already, but anybody else out there who's dead set on being a market farmer, what advice do you have for them?
Um, yeah, I have. Actually, yeah, I told this dude because he's dead set on being a market gardener, which is cool. But yeah, I gave him two rules. Rule number one, it's very simple. Rule number one is don't be a bitch. That's rule number one. Rule number two is don't listen to what anyone else says. So that's it. That's literally it.
I think that's pretty simple. Don't be a bitch and don't listen to what anyone else says.
Correct. Yeah, you don't have to. Because I have found, at least through market gardening, is that a lot of people want to tell you, oh, this is the way to do it, or oh, that's not going to work. You're wasting your time with that. Whatever. I hear a lot of that, a lot of naysaying, and a lot of pessimism, dude. Honestly, and
You know what you should do.
you know what you should do. Well, this is how I do it, or whatever. And maybe it does work for them. Maybe it would work for me, or whatever. But honestly, I feel like I've learned the most through doing things that people said either weren't possible or wouldn't likely work, or I mean, whatever it is, man. Yeah.
So ultimately, you learned most by doing.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah. Interesting.
Action based.
Yeah.
Pretty
that's
action based.
Just something observation I'm making here. That you learn by doing.
Yeah, I didn't do that much reading, honestly. Like, I mean, I've read like the JM book. I've read some Elliot Coleman stuff for sure. I mean, I've read some people and watched videos or whatever, but honestly, mostly just through experimentation and failure and success and desperation and all things in between.
Right.
Have come to figure out, or I don't know how much I've figured out, but come to learn some things, I guess.
So what's a common myth? Like what's a common after all it? Well, it's not like we're done learning, like we've mastered this life thing. We got a lot more to learn, and we'll probably look back in 10 years and have a good laugh at this period of time.
Oh yeah.
But it probably won't be that long either, dude.
10 or so days.
But what do you think is a common myth
in
about
life?
Small farming, about being a market gardener?
That it's
market farmer.
That it's some beautiful, picturesque endeavor. Something like it's like beautiful, and you're just like, you must feel so peaceful. I've had I had a interaction with an inner city dude in Cleveland at the market, and that's what he was saying. He was, man, you just must feel so peaceful doing what you do every day. No, man, I don't. Not at all, actually. No, I don't feel a lot of peace from market gardening, actually.
Yeah.
It's not, at least for me at least, it's not. I'm sure there's probably some people out there who find it very peaceful, but I'm not one of them, I don't think. Maybe I'll get to that someday with it, but I don't see that happening.
Right.
I don't think it's super peaceful. I think it's pretty stressful.
Yeah, I think we can understand why, based on some of the things that we talked about so far, the hours and the time and the commitment and the
failures,
work and the failures and the stresses, and
it's all time. It's all very based on time too, and it's a lot of it's out of your control. So that's the other aspect, is it's very far out of just the weather alone is completely out of your control. So as far as what the weather does, it doesn't matter what you think about it.
Like
at
the
all.
wind, for
like
example.
The wind, it doesn't matter. Weather doesn't care how you feel.
Yeah.
So that ties back in again. I was saying earlier about I try not to pay that much attention to how I feel, because like the elements and most of the things around you don't give a shit either. So
yeah,
they don't really care about you.
Nature doesn't care.
Nature doesn't care about your feelings, man. So
no.
What doesn't care?
What market farming related or not, what challenge in life do you think has shaped you the most to date?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I wouldn't say market gardening. Probably not. Yeah, I would say probably being in a relationship with my girlfriend, my current girlfriend. Yeah, I would say probably that. Yeah, I would say that's been challenging in a lot of different ways, unexpected ways, and probably will continue to be challenging. I'm almost certain.
On that, I think that's the most challenging part of life. I'm also learning that right now, changing, transitioning the way that I live and conduct business with people and friends and family. And yeah, if you've got an intimate relationship with someone, I'm a single dude. I've been single for a while. I'm not really sure.
Ladies, oh, or or dudes. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, well, hey, now I still like, yeah, no, we'll stick with the former. All right, but yeah, man, that's a huge part of life. I mean, you
Yeah,
know, you guys have a couple kids,
right.
and
A home.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
So
and a
yeah, we
new
live
home at
together
that, which
in a house. Yeah,
you know
we bought a
combines
house.
a bunch of stress. Which one of the questions I had is, what's it like trying to be a market farmer with two small kids, ages
Oh,
like we previously
yeah.
said, 7.5 and 14 months.
Well, luckily, my partner she does most of the work regarding kids. You know, I pretty much just I'm like the yeah, I'm like a relief pitcher or something. You know, she's like she does all the grinding hard stuff with the kids, I think, and I just come in, you know, help out a little bit here and there when I can, kind of thing. But
Squeezing naps with the
yeah,
little one.
squeezing naps, right? Squeezing
Give her some
naps.
time alone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, I mean, I would say that she does most of that work. I try to I bring back the resources, the food, uh, yeah, the food mostly, the meat and the produce. So I
It,
bring that, and she takes care of the kids
it's a
mostly.
it's
It's a trade off.
it's yeah, right.
Yeah,
Not unlike many traditional.
natural humans. Yeah,
Right. It's
right.
really a common way that people have interacted historically, and maybe ought to moving forward. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know, but
But that's neither here nor there. We're not really here to talk about that today. But what do you think? Like, but just kind of on the on the on the note of whole parenting and being a dad, what do you think one of the most challenging aspects parents, maybe not just parents, but specifically fathers, face today?
no, dude, I don't know. That's that's a pretty big question.
Right.
Fathers in general, man, I don't know. I certainly can't speak for fathers in general. That'd be tough because I know a lot of people are very different.
How about you
Um,
as a father then? Like,
yeah,
what's something that, like, just I don't know, like,
right. I guess I would say that I worry about, yeah, I worry about influence with my kids, you know, like not necessarily my influence. I mean, I do think about the influence I have on my kids, but I'm speaking more of outside
societal,
influences.
cultural.
Yeah, yeah. Technological influences and yeah, man, just really horrible shit out there, you know. Man, yeah, just mm, very concerning things happening in the world that I don't really want my kids to be part of, but I think almost is, you know, inescapable in a way. You
It's
know,
inevitable.
not that Halloween candy is like the worst thing in the world, but I certainly think it's like complete total bullshit and like empty, shallow tradition that means absolutely nothing. So it's just like challenges like that. You know, my kid, 7.5, she wants to go Halloween candy thing, you know, which I did growing up. I didn't die, you know, like it's not gonna kill her, but at the same time, there's no reason to put like food coloring and corn syrup in your body. Like why? Just why? What is happening? What? So it's like stuff like that I let you know, and like excess, just like excess things, just you know, Christmas and birthdays, just like we have too much shit. We don't need this much stuff in life. Too many possessions, and so I worry about my kids being like kind of spoiled, you know, and yeah, just having life too easy. I guess I worry about that. I don't want them to have a real easy life. I don't want them to have too much privilege and too much shit handed to them. I'd say yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
I don't have children of my own, but once I had family members that had kids, and then once, you started spending more time here
hmm,
a few years ago, and I started spending more time around you and Luna, my perspective on kids started changing, and I share a lot of those same concerns. And I think all we can really do, and all we're really doing about it, is trying to adjust the way in which we live our lives so that
Yeah.
the children that are around us and the influence that we have is the best that we can. So there's some kind of frame of reference for something that
Right.
the world's exposing them to, because that is largely out of our control.
Yeah, man.
It's a weird. That's a weird. I'm gonna jot that down as another, future discussion thing. But
Mm,
in just in terms of time, like we were talking about before we got started, how the battery's gonna last and the uncertainty of everything. We've actually kind of made it through a lot of these questions, and I'm stoked on that.
mm.
Which leads us to these closing questions. Um, that are really unrelated to anything, but also related to everything. What's one piece of advice that you can share with anybody listening to this out there?
One piece of advice. That's really broad. That's a very broad question. There's so many things
Well, you know what advice you have for people that are dead set on market gardening? Don't be a bitch and don't listen to
what other people say. Yeah.
what other people say.
I mean, yeah, those are pretty good overall.
Maybe that's
I'd say.
applicable to life in general.
Yeah, I mean, it could be applicable to life in general for sure. Yeah, I maybe just don't be so afraid of stress and difficulty. Yeah, don't be. I mean, everybody gets stressed out and anxious and feels bad or whatever. This happens to everyone, myself included. And when I'm in the middle of feeling stressed or anxious or whatever, complicated emotions are going on or whatever, just thinking to myself like, this is fine. Yeah, it's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I guess going back to the feelings, like try not to pay too much attention to my feelings, not get too caught up in them. Is yeah, don't get too caught up in your feelings.
Which is interesting. I think it's sound advice. It's interesting, I say, because it seems somewhat counterintuitive to a lot of the narrative now, which is going deep into your feelings and really becoming in touch with who you are to examine and get to the root of it. And I think there's some value in that, but I also think we all take that to an extreme and inevitably just seek to find someone or something to blame for our problems instead of actually taking action to, move beyond it. So anyways, what are totally unrelated? What are three favorite books of yours that come to mind? But just right off the top of your head, something maybe you're reading now, something that you've read in the past. Just 3 books.
Number one all-time book, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. That's actually number one for me. I probably read that book 10 times. No joke. I would still read that book today. Haven't read it in years. But man, is that a good book.
Audience member right now is doing a book study and reading that right now.
Oh,
Brian Norton.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Nice.
That is interesting.
I love that book, man. It's a doozy.
It's actually Brian Norton who is helping stream this platform through foodforestfarms.com. I'll just give him a little plug, shout out there.
We'll have fun there with the book, Brian.
Yeah.
That'll be Yeah.
What's next? What else you got besides number one,
Um,
which seems to be in the ether out there floating around quite a bit?
it's true. It's true. I mean, I feel like it's kind of cliche or whatever, but I'd say Siddhartha. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
probably. I mean, I've
absolutely.
read that book a lot of times, and
Yes.
it was required in ninth grade English class from my
Hmm.
English teacher, who was really cool. So yeah, I read that in school. One of the few books I read in school that I was required to actually read in school. Um, yeah, so there's two right there, and I'm looking through your bookshelf right now. Not that I don't know. Maybe you will have something. Actually, you do have. Actually, it's pretty funny. You do have the one that I would say is nurturing traditions. Yeah, actually,
Yeah,
that's a
right.
great one. It kind of it's cookbook slash like information about food book. Um, but yeah, nurturing traditions is pretty stellar. Yeah, good book.
I have not read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, so I'm gonna have to examine this because a lot of people are, and it's gotten a solid nod of approval from you since it was numero uno on the book list,
I feel like
and
people.
the other two are solid for sure. Um, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, it can be. I don't know, man. I feel like you got to kind of be interested in the unequatable to be into that book. I would think like things that are just beyond, almost beyond the mind. I guess I would say is kind of because I've recommended the book to people. Actually, my girlfriend in particular is one of them, and she did not dig it at all. Could not get into it. She said she would read the page like 3 times. She'd have to like keep going back and reading paragraph again and again and again, just like was not following it.
That's interesting
Because it
because
is,
I
it's like pretty existential and just like kind of spacey, the book itself. But it is about motorcycle maintenance. But I feel like the motorcycle maintenance is kind of a metaphor, you know.
yeah,
But he is into like repairing motorcycles, which is pretty cool. But it's obviously not just about motorcycles.
right.
Yeah, but it's
That's
a lot going on.
interesting that she had to process it like that and couldn't quite get down with it.
I don't think she finished it either. I'm pretty sure she
Hmm.
did not finish it. Almost positive she did not.
We'll see.
But that's okay. It's not for everybody.
No, no. But there's only one way to find out if it's for you, and that's to read it.
Check it
And
out.
I'm gonna try and do the same and add it to my list. So we got our 3 books. What about podcasts? What are your 3 go-to on your podcast player right now?
I mean, number
What's in
one's
the rotation?
obviously number one's Joe Rogan. That's
All right,
the best podcast in the world for sure.
JRE.
The JRE, which doesn't need any explanation or
No,
detail.
no,
It's the JRE, right?
yeah,
Mm, yeah, so I'll go JRE. Number 2 is probably Sasquatch Chronicles. That's
yeah,
number
yeah,
2,
yeah.
which I don't know. I still feel some like embarrassment about or something because I feel like
Talking with you, I've come to embrace it more.
people
And
get a lot of flack about talking about Bigfoot, man, but
yes, we do.
I don't really care, honestly. So Sasquatch Chronicles is an amazing podcast.
It's supremely interesting, and I don't.
It
Dude,
is.
I'm gonna jot that down on another thing because that's on another future topic because, like, it's not very often where you can find someone where you can connect with on that like legitimately and talk about it legitimately, and I can appreciate that. All right, so we got Jerry Sasquatch Chronicles. Laugh away, everybody out there. That's
Yeah,
fine.
I don't really care. It's
Join
okay.
us around a bonfire sometime. We'll go into a deeper discussion about it.
Or go ahead and check out Sasquatch Chronicles.
Exactly.
It's a great podcast.
And there, but admittedly, if you're searching for content out there on this, there's also a lot of questionable content. So there's that. We'll both agree to that. I don't even think I have to see what you say about that, Cody.
And then number 3.
Yeah, number 3.
Moving on, which is totally different from all the other 2, not even close. But it's these guys are a local Ohio 2 dudes, Dads Against Predators. Their podcast is called Excuse Me Everybody. And these 2 dudes from Ohio, Fremont, Ohio, They catch and expose child predators online. They did it on YouTube, but they've currently been deleted, banned on YouTube. Their
Really?
channel's been deleted now for the second time, because they're considered harassment because they pose as 13, 14-year-old boys and girls in chat
Yeah, but
rooms.
they're literally doing the same thing that I forget his name. That
Chris Hansen.
Yeah, Chris Hansen did.
To catch
It's
a predator.
literally the same thing.
Nah, I mean, it is, but it's not, man. These dudes
They're
are
a little
pretty
bit more aggressive.
gangster. Yeah, man. Like they've fought people, and like they smoke a lot of weed, and like on camera, and like very open about it. And they're like kind of, they're a little bit ghetto, man. They're a little bit ghetto, and
Yeah,
they're
but considering
loud.
all the content that's on YouTube
Yeah,
and what you see out there, the fact that something like that gets pulled is
yeah, for harassment. And they curse a lot and stuff. They've got foul language a lot or whatever, but. Yeah, I don't know, man. So their podcast is called "Excuse Me, Everybody," and
I'm going to link to that and show notes.
You should.
So everyone
That's still up. Their
check 'em
podcast
out.
is still up.
Yeah.
Luckily, I'm pretty sure, because Anyway, so it just sucks, man. Because they're two really good guys, and I don't know them personally, but two really good guys, and they were making a living doing it, but their future is uncertain, and so they're kind of looking for
because they were monetized and they pulled it, and then it's gone.
Yeah, so now they're looking for like potentially another platform to do it on. I don't know. They're kind of like in a transitionary period right now, which
Right.
So I feel like the more people that go look these guys up and follow their shit and
Give
support
them a
them.
support.
Yeah, man, buy a hat, buy a t-shirt, put your money towards something good in the world, like these dudes who are exposing and catching child predators, because now there's minor attracted persons, Rob, which is apparently an identity in our culture these days, is minor attracted persons. People who have an, uncontrollable attraction to minors, which is disgusting, and you're a piece of shit if you're into that kind of shit. So you shouldn't do that, man. It's disgusting.
Dude, that's just another.
It's gross.
That
man.
can be lumped into something else that we talked that
Yeah, the kid thing. Yeah, that worries me as a father. Having kids, man.
Yeah,
that worries me a lot. Is internet and like what it can do for, getting kids, exposed to just horrible shit like that, man. People, sick, demented people.
Yeah,
it's gross.
Another topic for another time, but it is.
Excuse Me Everybody podcast, and it's called Excuse Me Everybody because the guy literally does in Walmart and these public places. He yells at the top of his lungs, "Excuse me, everybody! This dude's here to meet." Or
that's his tagline.
Yeah,
okay,
he screams, "Excuse me, everybody!" in public places, and it's hilarious.
Excuse Me Everybody podcast.
Yeah, and publicly shaming people is like that's like predators. The lowest tier of punishment these people should get is public shaming. Like they're getting off way too easy.
Lowest,
way too easy.
Tier. So
yeah.
I don't know. I think a lot of people think people that talk about this are, make a bigger deal out of it than it is or whatever. But I don't really think people understand what an issue it is and
it's a big problem.
What it is a bigger part of. And that's something that I think that would be a healthy conversation at another point in time, but we're already damn near an hour and a half in, and I'm quite frankly surprised that the phone still has battery, which is kind of cool because there's only a couple other questions I have for you, Cody.
Beautiful.
And one of them is there any question that you wish I would have asked you but I didn't?
No, I couldn't think. I couldn't think of anything. I mean, I came in with zero expectations, so.
Did you so with no expectations coming in, were there any takeaways from it that you're gonna leave with? Because we're about to go on the rest of our day. What do you got going on the rest of the day anyways?
I mean, I can't say that because I'm still here.
Well, you're gonna go check out the tunnel. I know that for sure because we talked about that earlier. I'm gonna spend the rest of the day making kraut, chopping onions and whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm gonna check out some. Yeah, we're gonna make sure that the wind is not gonna take down this caterpillar tunnel that
Dave
we just
coming
put
over?
up. Yeah, probably tonight. He'll be here tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna go check on this caterpillar tunnel and make sure it's not, falling over or blowing over, and then I'm eating lunch with my family, and
Very nice. Very nice.
hopefully she's cooking something really good.
Undoubtedly.
And, undoubtedly, yep. Hopefully it's got a lot of meat in it. And then I'm gonna put my kid down for a nap and take one with her, and probably hang out with my family a little bit when we get up, and then probably go bow hunting for deer somewhere locally, and then probably work tonight with headlamps with my friend and coworker Dave.
Yeah.
Dylan.
And actually,
we're probably not supposed to say names.
Speaking of Dave,
he's not on the internet. Dave doesn't have internet stuff.
No, but Dave is on the internet. You posted a picture of you and Dave and John.
Yeah, that's true.
The other day, and that's a perfect segue into the next question: is where can people find you on social media? You posted that picture on, I don't know,
Facebook
where,
and Instagram,
or
I think,
Instagram or somewhere, both maybe.
Both. I just link them together because I'm technologically fancy. Like
yeah, you're like a wizard like that.
Yeah,
so
pretty good.
On what do they call it? A handle?
Facebook's Cody Matthew Grey. And then I don't even know what the Instagram is.
I do, because I linked to it in the newsletter.
Oh, okay.
What is it? Cody. It's either
something.
It's either Cody Matthew Grey or Cody M Grey.
Maybe it's that. No, it is. It's Cody.
I think it's Cody M Grey on Instagram.
It's all lowercase CODYMGREY.
Yeah, because I tagged the pictures that you sent me in the newsletter with that, so they can go there and check your stuff out. So if you guys are listening, go follow Cody on Instagram and Facebook, and then you can learn more about what he's doing, far more than the little snippet that is covered in the newsletter each month that we send out. Cody Matthew Grey, Cody M Grey on social media. And with that, I guess that's about it. I would also encourage everyone out there to subscribe to the newsletter at York Meadow Farm, where both of us are at this moment, at yorkmeadowfarm.com. And that way you get monthly updates from everything that's going on here, including everything that's going on with Cody, links to the current markets where he's at, which at this point in time, there's not going to be much to link to because the Tremont market is over. The Medina market is over. And we're both in this transition period where we are just simply continuing the grind in preparation for the next winter market. Except maybe it's just a little less of a grind.
You can also find my stuff at yellowhousecheese.com.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yellow House Cheese is definitely worth mentioning. We list them in the newsletter, and everybody and anybody who's listening to this and local to Northeast Ohio should check out Yellow House Cheese because they do an awesome job of supporting. How many vendors would you say? Like 6?
Something like that.
Like 6 different vendors selling everything from cheese and maple syrup to mushrooms, produce, a lot of things that you forage. You'll send out there to pawpaws, mushrooms, whatever. Do you forage mushrooms through there or no?
Yeah, but the season's over.
Okay. But yeah, it's awesome. And even if you're not local, it's still cool to check out and let your brain simmer on some of the ideas on how the local line store that's run through Yellow House Cheese is set up. So anyway, guys, that's it for the show today.